Welcome once again to Auto Mundial, the weekly home of all the latest motoring news and reviews. This week, there's a new Lamborghini on the block, this time more powerful than ever.
We've also got the return of the front-driven sports coupe, and it's fair to say we're excited.
Plus, can the Porsche Cayenne do what it does best and save its manufacturer from the brink again?
That's all coming up. First though, the news.
A few months ago, the UK government announced a new plug-in car grant as incentive to make the move from internal combustion to electric mobility. Split into two levels, the first batch of cars announced as being eligible for the incentive only benefited from the smaller figure. Now, however, the first few models making the most of a £3,750 reduction have been listed. These include the newly facelifted Nissan Leaf, the Citroën C5 Aircross in long-range form, the Ford e-Tourneo Courier and Ford Puma Gen E, each now available from under £33,000. Should you not fancy any of those models, a longer list of EVs fitting the second band is available, including almost the entire Vauxhall EV lineup, most Volkswagen IDs, several non-SUV Peugeots and Citroëns, plus the odd Renault and Skoda, among others. With government help, these all benefit from a £1,500 grant.
Some 25 years ago, the coupe body style was all the rage. Stylish, slick-backed versions of albeit more practical hatchbacks were the epitome of the two-car lifestyle. It was an era of affordability. Now though, as families revolve around a single car, the SUV has very much replaced the coupe as the on-trend automotive shape. Whilst most manufacturers have long forgotten the two-door sloped-roof sports car, Honda is seemingly taking inspiration from the past. Last year, the Japanese manufacturer lifted the covers on a brand new Prelude, which, unlike other models of the time, like the Ford Puma, has not grown in proportions. Now though, that sleek, attractive sports car is slowly making its way to your local dealerships. The first market to get its hands on the Japanese sports coupe is the US, but it's also undergoing final testing in Europe. In the spirit of the coupes of a quarter of a century ago, the new Prelude sits atop a Honda Civic chassis, though with a few spicy bits from the hatchback's Type R variant. Gone, however, is the four-door look, and in its stead is an elegant and sporty coupe design encompassing all the key styling cues that Honda is looking to incorporate into its new models. Elements like the protruding nose, dual strake headlights and curved light bar are all slowly making their way onto more and more Honda products. But what really excites us about this little revival is its lack of rear doors and its coupe roofline. Going against the grain, it trades practicality for poise, efficiency for elegance. And sure, that won't suit you and your 20 kids, nor will its low stance make access easy for those that let out audible cracks at the movement of any joint. But with two comfy seats behind a very Honda Civic dashboard and a rear bench that can easily become a boot large enough for suitcases, it will suit that stylish young couple down the road that seem to have their life together earlier than most. As we say, there's a lot of Civic under the shell here. The Prelude also gets the Civic Hybrid's 2-litre engine and pair of electric motors, the whole system totaling 200 brake horsepower and decent fuel mileage. But at the end of the day, coupes are designed to be sporty, and so suspension and brakes are carried over from the Civic Type R, along with its wider footprint. Whilst performance figures are yet to be calculated, orders are set to open any day now, with the new Honda Prelude set to cost around $45,000, only a little less than the 315 brake horsepower Civic Type R. Take a look through the car market and you will agree that the Prelude has very few direct rivals in class. Front-driven, tepid coupes have died out over the last 20 years, but that isn't to say that this is the only elegant automotive alternative.
For that same price, you could pick yourself up a BMW 2 Series, equally fabulously floored in the interior space department and in 230i specification. A little cheaper than the expected Prelude price, this two-door may well be the closest benchmark for Honda's upcoming arrival. Slightly larger on paper, you could more realistically get a child or two in the back seats of the European, but with a more screen-centric approach to interior design and more of a standalone product, you don't get the same classy cabin feel. Instead of chrome vents and upmarket upholstery, BMW offers a bland interior experience that, if it isn't already, will become outdated in a matter of weeks. The same can be said for the outside, as where the Prelude is a rejuvenation of an old-school trend, the 2 Series is doing all it can to look like a scaled-down 3 Series with its tall roof and bold body language. Certainly the Prelude will start more conversations when out on the open road. Price-wise, the Prelude should sit smack bang in between the $40,000 230i and $50,000 M240. The former gets a 255 brake horsepower 2-litre 4-pot, while the top model wears the M badge with pride, getting 382 bhp from a 3-litre straight 6. That's proper sporty BMW right there. Either way, both are more powerful than the Prelude, and so combined with it being a name the general public knows better, we doubt the Honda will truly challenge this Bavarian mainstay. However, those that choose Japan's newest coupe can be proud they made the adventurous step into the unknown.
Later on in the show, we'll be taking a look at Porsche's next big thing, the electric Cayenne. When it eventually makes its way to market, however, it will enter one of the most hotly contested markets in the EV space, the full-size SUV, a class that recently received the Cayenne's closest challenger, the facelifted Polestar 3. Visually, you'll struggle to tell this new car apart from the original, and the same can be said inside. It's all very Polestar 3. But a short gander at its specification sheet will highlight just how much work has gone on under the surface. EV development's fierce frontier in 2025 is the push towards higher voltage batteries, which allow for more energy in a smaller package, and the 3 joins the top market players with its 800-volt architecture. That, alongside optimised energy management software and a more efficient motor design, mean that the Polestar 3 is leading the charge towards ever longer range figures. 3 variants will exist: an entry rear motor, good for 375 miles on a charge from its 92 kWh battery. A larger 102 kWh unit comes as standard in both the 394-mile dual motor and 368-mile performance models. The rear-driven car will get 330 brake horsepower, which should be all you need, whilst for the power-hungry 536 and 670 brake come aboard the dual motor and performance respectively. Charging rates are 25% faster than before, meaning going from 10 to 80% will take just 20-odd minutes. A particularly popular product, the outgoing Polestar 3, will first be replaced here in the UK towards the start of 2026, with other markets following suit later on down the line. That said, it isn't a cheap car, with prices starting from £70,000 in the UK and $69,000 in the US, placing it alongside the incoming Cayenne, but also BMW's flagship iX.
OK, the BMW's far more jagged looks do cost £5,000 more than the Polestar, but you get the idea. For that money, you get a far taller, far less sleek SUV that somehow doesn't boast the same amount of interior space as its rival. Battery-wise, the BMW iX gets 3 drivetrain options, each with their strengths and weaknesses. At the entry point is the xDrive 45, sporting a 94 kWh battery, powering the car to 374 miles of range. For a little more juice, the xDrive 60 is the most impressive in our opinion, with its 426 miles from a 109 kWh battery. That same AA powers the range-topping M70, which ups power from 535 to 650 brake horsepower, though with the byproduct of reduced range. Whilst the looks and interior comfort may not be able to rival the Polestar, BMW has far more impressive underpinnings following a mechanical upgrade earlier this year. So if all you want is a car to eke out those last few miles on the motorway, Bavaria is the place to be. But if you don't mind a comfy living room that may require a few more coffee breaks, we hear Sweden has expertise in the furnishing industry.
After the break, Lamborghini lifts the covers on what it calls a few-off.
Welcome back. Coming up, the electric Porsche Cayenne gets put through its paces.
The V12 Italian supercar is very much Lamborghini's thing. Countless iterations of raging bulls with bonkers barks have patrolled London boroughs for years, the latest being the Revuelto, this time combining 12-cylinder symphonies with EV subtlety. But if you thought the latest spaceship to come out of Italy was a bit more boring than bonkers, Motoring's Mad Hatter has something a little more phenomenal for you. Unveiled before a sea of people on a sunny Californian afternoon during Monterey Car Week, the Lamborghini Phenomeno takes that run-of-the-mill Revuelto and gives it a touch more personality. Be it the 6.5-litre V12 or its electric running body consisting of 3 motors strapped to a 7 kWh battery, everything under the shell is a Revuelto. But that all-important power figure has been pumped up from an unsatisfying 1001 brake to a far more exciting 1065. That little boost means Lambo's top dog will now finally go from 0 to 60 in under 2.5 seconds, topping out at 217. Visually, we will concede that the Revuelto is a good-looking car, but there's no denying that this Phenomeno is more Lamborghini. Gaping grille, ducting for days, enlarged exhaust, and taillights poking out of what could only be described as a pair of black holes are pieces of design only Lamborghini can get away with, and yet what we all expect from the manufacturer.
Several years ago, almost 15 years ago in fact, Renault pulled the mighty Espace from its UK lineup. Instead, the largest model we now get is the Austral, meaning British soil is unblessed with a Renault 7-seater, which made us particularly sad when the French manufacturer launched its latest Espace. Essentially an Austral, but with a rear-end overhang extension and a few extra mil to the wheelbase, the Espace may not be the most manoeuvrable barge on the road, but it was always a fantastic offering for large families. Under the body of France's favourite family ferry lies a single powertrain offering a 200 brake horsepower full hybrid. Its 1.2-litre 3-cylinder gets assistance from a 70 brake horsepower electric motor on the front axle and a smaller unit to smoothen out gear changes. Despite falling within Renault's combustion range, the new Espace makes the most of the Renault 5's interior layout, something reserved mostly for EVs. That includes a larger pair of screens around the driver, a shelf-like dash in front of the passenger, and an almost high-end design. Nice upholstery and trim make for a nice space, whilst the rear passengers get some good room as well. The third row of seating is nothing more than a bench in the boot, dropping boot space by half, should you unfold said chair. Ultimately though, the Renault Espace is one of those toys our neighbours get to play with every day, and we're left enviously peering over the garden fence. So what are your alternatives if you find yourself coloured a shade of green in response to Europe's Espace?
One of the most recent additions in class after its initial launch at the 2024 Paris Motor Show is the Volkswagen Tayron, replacing the Tiguan All-Space and sitting just below the more luxurious Touareg. This German rival similarly seats 7 by cramming a third row in the boot of a slightly elongated SUV. Far softer in its looks than the Espace, the Tayron is a perfect symbol of its manufacturer's overall design language, with light bars and large grilles aplenty, a lack of frilly body details and voluminous shapes. The same is true inside, where the same minimalist design you get on everything from the ID3 to the Passat makes for a stripped out and wide open cabin, plus a simple screen mounted to the dash. Higher end luxuries like the leather seat inserts and this large sunroof are only available on higher end trim levels, but every car gets 12.9 inches of display, 3-zone aircon and a plethora of driving assist, adaptive cruise control, the headliner. Petrol, diesel and plug-in hybrid powertrains are available, though it's worth noting that the latter's 19.7 kilowatt-hour battery means you don't get a third row of seats. If that doesn't bother you, 75 miles of electric-only juice comes with 200 or 270 brake horsepower. The e-Hybrid's 1.5-litre engine also powers the entry-level TSI, good for 150 brake, whilst 200 and 260 come from a larger 2-litre unit. Meanwhile, 150 brake horsepower diesel will be good for munching up motorway miles. In wheezy 150 bhp form, the Volkswagen Tayron hits the market from £41,000. We make that about $54,000. But for a Tayron with a bit more appeal, the plug-in hybrid in elegance trim is available from $46,500, some $61,000.
Some might say the dawn of the SUV. Others might say Porsche's saviour from the brink of bankruptcy. Either way, the Porsche Cayenne is perhaps one of the most important cars released in the past 30 years. And now the full-size Highrider is back in the spotlight. Ahead of its official launch next summer, the upcoming Porsche Cayenne Electric is busy ironing out any final chinks in its armour as it prepares to once again bear the weight of an automotive giant on its shoulders. In recent years, the German manufacturer's electric strategy has failed to generate the revenue and sales Porsche had planned, leading to some tough decisions. As recently as last month, Porsche canned its entry into next year's World Endurance Championship due to budgetary concerns, a series its 963 hypercar won last year. So looking to dig itself out of another hole, Porsche is bound to put a lot of pressure on the success of its upcoming EV, and so everything has to be perfect. Still undergoing extreme weather testing, both high up in the Arctic Circle and under the sweltering heat of the Arabian Desert, the next Cayenne is still very much under the cover of testing camouflage. Nevertheless, you do get a slight hint at what the manufacturer's third EV will look like, as the same squinting headlights are found in the Macan, and they will sit afront a larger, boxier SUV. Much like other Porsche and Audi electric vehicles, the fourth generation Cayenne will sit atop the manufacturer's premium platform electric, but in an updated form. An updated form unique to the sports car maker. That means its 800-volt architecture will now get wireless charging capabilities and even better heat management. While specific numbers are yet to hit the headlines, Porsche is claiming the Cayenne will be its most powerful car yet, so exceeding the 1,020 brake horsepower Taycan Turbo GT. But it will also likely be available in more sedate forms, while a 113 kilowatt-hour battery will reportedly sit at the Cayenne's core. Being a luxury SUV, the Cayenne will obviously weigh a lot, some 2.5 tons in fact. But with ride control, that clearly doesn't stop it from getting leery when it wants to. Expected to hit the market next summer, stay tuned to Auto Mundial as we learn more and more about Porsche's potential knight in shining armour.
Next time on Auto Mundial, Skoda celebrates its 130th birthday with not one, not two, but three new creations.